The Electoral College is not a school or institution of higher learning. It's the process that takes place in order to elect the President of the United States of America. The establishment and the role of the Electoral College was first written out in the year of 1787 in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the U.S. Constitution as an alternative to electing the President by popular vote or by Congress. When United States citizens vote on Election Day, they are actually voting for a group of people called electors. On the night of the presidential election, most Americans stay tuned to the news to find out who won. But even after the final votes are counted and the winner is announced, our choice for president or vice president is not official until the Electoral College casts its votes. The number of electors each state gets is equal to its total number of senators and representatives in Congress. For example, a state like Michigan, who has recently undergone redistricting, has 13 congressional districts within the state. So basically, Michigan earns 13 electoral points plus one for each of its two senators, equaling a total number of 15 electoral votes. If a candidate wins the most votes in Michigan, he or she gets all 15 points to go towards the amount of points needed to win the election. During the election season, political parties focus on states with the most congressional districts, like Texas, California, New York, and Florida. Because losing large states like California, who gets 54 electoral points, could really make or break an election. Let's further break this down. Let's say a candidate won Texas, California, New York, Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Illinois, Michigan, North Carolina, and New Mexico. He or she will ultimately win the presidential election even though they may have only won 12 states, and the other candidate won all the other 38 states and Washington, D.C. There are currently 538 electors in the Electoral College. 270 votes are needed to win the presidential election. The process in which electors are selected varies by state, but in general, state political parties come up with a list of names for consideration to decide who the electors will be. They include people with ties to particular political parties, like current and former party officials, state lawmakers, and party activists. Electors are selected either at state party conventions or by party central committees. Each presidential candidate gets their own unique list of names to review as well. Electors are chosen in processes defined by state law. In some cases, state laws follow the practices of a political party bylaws to define how electors are chosen. The typical qualifications for a presidential elector include current membership in the political party, current voter registration, and a pledge to vote for the party's presidential ticket. No matter the selection method, a list of alternatives are usually selected just in case electors are unable to fulfill their duties. Most states distribute their electoral college votes in the same winner-takes-all fashion as Michigan. However, two states, Maine and Nebraska, employ a district system.
Okay, we're going to take a look at two states right now, Maine and Nebraska, during the 2020 election. Now, Maine and Nebraska are very unusual states because they count their electoral votes differently than everybody else. 48 states out of the 50 have what's called winner take all, where they take the popular vote, and whoever wins the popular vote in a state wins all of the electoral votes, except in Maine and Nebraska. So we're going to use Nebraska here as an example on how the congressional district method works. Okay, first of all, Nebraska has 5 electoral votes. The reason you know that is because they have 1, 2, 3 House districts plus 2 senators. That equals 5 electoral votes. Okay, now this is how they're going to count their votes. First, you got, let's just say, and this is a hypothetical situation. First, let's say that Trump wins the 1st congressional district. So we're going to give Trump 1 electoral vote, okay, because he won the 1st congressional district. Now this is Omaha in the 2nd congressional district. And let's say, for the sake of argument, that Biden wins the second congressional district. So Biden is going to get one electoral vote. Now, the third district out here, it's very heavily Trump, so Trump's going to win that one, and he gets a second electoral vote. Now, remember, Nebraska has 5 electoral votes total. So where do the other 2 go? So what you do is you take the entire state, okay? You count up all the votes throughout the state, and whoever wins the popular vote wins the 2 Senate district votes. So in this case, Trump is going to have 4 electoral votes to Biden's 1. Now, who's happy about this? Actually, Biden, because had Nebraska had a winner-take-all system, Biden wouldn't get anything. But because this is broken down this way, Biden is probably pretty happy. Trump's not happy about that because he lost an electoral vote. Now, the same thing is going on in Maine. Maine has only 2 congressional districts, but they do it the same way as this one. And so this is just an idea of what they're talking about in the news on the night of the 2020 election when they're talking about Nebraska and Maine having split electoral votes.
In which 2 at-large electors vote for the winner of the state's popular vote, and 1 elector votes for the popular winner in each congressional district. After state election officials certify their votes in the general election, electors from each state meet in the state's capital to cast their official vote for president and vice president. Although it is not unconstitutional for electors to vote for someone other than those whom they pledge their support, many states, as well as Washington, D.C., which represents 3 electoral college votes but has no voting representation in Congress, bind electors to their candidate using oaths and fines in order to prevent faithless electing.
Fun fact?
Okay, let's start off first with the introduction. Washington, D.C. was founded on July 16, 1790. The name Washington comes from General George Washington, one of the founders of the United States of America. The initials D.C. stand for District of Columbia, and the name Columbia comes from the name of the Italian explorer Christopher Columbus, who landed in America in 1492 on a ship financed by Spanish monarchs. Washington, D.C. is a special federal district, not a state, and therefore does not have voting representation in Congress according to the Constitution. The Constitution grants Congress exclusive jurisdiction over the district in all cases whatsoever. In the House of Representatives, Washington, D.C. is represented by a delegate who is not allowed to vote on the House floor, but can vote on procedural matters and congressional committees. D.C. residents have no representative in the Senate either. Many proposals have been introduced by the people to change this situation, including legislation and constitutional amendments. All proposals have been met with political or constitutional pushback, and there has been no change in the district's representation in Congress to this day. During the 19th century, faithless electors, referring to those who broke their pledge and voted for somebody else, was rare, but not uncommon, especially when it came to vice presidents. Now, although there have been at least 100 individual electors voting faithlessly in over 2 centuries of previous U.S. presidential elections, however, 2016 between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump was the first election year in over 100 years in which multiple electors worked to alter the result of the election, sparking an ongoing debate on whether electoral college is still necessary in today's time. On July 6, 2020, a precedent was set on faithless elector rules when the United States Supreme Court ruled on Chiafalo versus Washington, making it legal for a state to enforce electors' pledge to support his party's nominee for president. So with all that being said, when every last vote is certified, the votes are then sent to the President of the U.S. Senate, formerly called the Vice President, who on January the 6th, with the entire Congress present, tallies the votes and announces the winner. Thanks for watching my YouTube video. I really enjoyed the process. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the thumbs up button. Feel free to share the content on other social media platforms. And for up and coming videos, hit the bell button so you can be notified. And please subscribe. And thanks again for watching. Until next time.